Hi, and welcome to the Apocalypse Rising track, part of the For Survival programming. So, as many of you might know, the Apocalypse Rising track is about all the cool ways, both real and science fiction, that the world could end. Anything from zombies to meteors to plagues to blood loss. And for those of you who have discovered our track, we have really two parallel programming that we go for. One is more the media and the fiction side of it. But the For Survival is real world, practical information to help everybody be a little more prepared, a little less stressed. My name is Hans Ekman. I help coordinate the programming for the For Survival. I'm a former police officer, former ecologist, and IT nerd now. I have had the honor of working with some amazing people, and this year, since we went virtual, I've brought together a good friend here, Jonathan Sarge, who's going to help us talk about bugging in and bugging out. What are these? What are some of the things and categories that you need to be familiar with? So, Sarge, a little bit about yourself.
Oh, my name is Jonathan Sarge. I met many of you last year. My background is in U.S. Army. Also have a background in civilian law enforcement as well. And I'm currently the director of training for a government agency in the Atlanta area.
Fantastic. Well, first off, what is bugging in and bugging out? What are these terms, and why would people care? Why do, like prepping, when we watch it on TV, it gets such a bad connotation? Why should everybody be at least a little bit of a prepper, or realize that everybody is prepping already? They just might not call it that way.
Well, I think that, I think, like you said, with the prepping on TV, they always show the very extreme. Oh, yes, I've got 16 years of shelf-stable food stored. Prepping, in essence, we all prep every day. You just don't realize it. When you put in, when you put your wallet in your pocket, or charge your smartwatch, or put a pocket knife in your trousers. These are things that which you're prepping right there. So I think we all do. But, the question comes is how do we prep? So how do we prep? And I think that kind of leads us into talking about bug out bags, bugging in, which is staying at your location where you don't, you have things set aside, versus bugging out, which is you're on the road and you can't replenish easily, which means if it's not on your back or carried with you, you don't have it. So that's the two differences that we're talking about there. So I think the first thing we'll talk about is that I get questions a lot about is what type of pack do I need if I'm going to bug out? So
you mean we just don't go out and buy one of these pre-made packs that is 100% filled, 4 times as expensive, and leaves no room for underwear?
Well, you can. Well, you make your own, but there's a lot of different options out there. I've got some examples here. You can take a very simple kind of pack, like a bag like this, and it's just a standard bag. This has a little bit of a tactical look to it, but something that will hold a good bit of stuff. It's rugged. It's got lots of pockets. You can compartmentalize your stuff, and you can move things around how you want them and organize them. You got your shoulder strap, and you got your carry handles, and that's one option. And then it doesn't have to be. A lot of people think it has to be a military pack. No. This right here, will serve as a bug out bag. Now, the advantage of having a civilian pack like this, or another one that I have like right here.
You mean as opposed to a MOLLE bag?
Opposed to a MOLLE bag, is these right here, they don't stand out as much.
Right.
So a lot of people will ask, like, why don't I want to stand out? The cool military packs, it depends on what type of environment you're moving through. That could actually identify you as a target to someone. They could say, hey, he's got that cool camo backpack. He might have something good inside of it that we would like to have. So I'm all about what we call the gray man, or blending in. with my personal packs there.
Absolutely, or let alone law enforcement. If you're talking about a situation where people are leaving an area, somebody who is decked out in tactical gear is going to draw more attention, both as a target and from law enforcement, and we have to take that into mind. Probably one of the best camouflages for escaping a disaster area that I learned about from panels when I started attending Dragon Con is this: a clipboard. If you carry a clipboard and have a regular backpack, maybe even a vest, and say, hey, I'm with this group for whatever reason, you can get through a lot of checkpoints without raising eyebrows. So you can, because the goal of leaving an area is you've decided that it is safer to be somewhere else than where you were. Like right now, we're in the great bugging in. Everybody is pretty much staying at home. Some people that may have a different area or decided, we had a friend for a while who was bugging in with us. So they left their house and stayed with us instead during the first part of the pandemic because it was safer and easier. So if you're moving through, then a lot of other people may have that same idea. So blending in or getting through those checkpoints, moving through other populations can be really important, as Sarge mentioned.
Okay. And I think, and then the next thing that people have to be conscious of is, of course, hydration. Hydration doesn't get enough credit. Hydration is the one thing that can hurt you very quickly if you're not getting adequate water, especially in the summer months, depending on where you live at. And hydration is very, very, very important. So we have a bag. Now let's put some water in it. So again, there are lots of different types of water containers out here. The number one that is not that expensive is just a good old Nalgene bottle. Nalgene bottles have antimicrobial, it's made of an antimicrobial material. So the water stays good forever in these things. And then, of course, also that I'm reaching over here is some sort of water filtration. And I like, Life Straw makes a good little kit that you can get. It's all in one bag. It's about $10, I think. And it has adapters which will let you put this onto a water bottle, and it will filter like, what is it? What is the amount on this? It's crazy. Isn't it like 100,000 gallons or something?
Something like that.
264 gallons of water. If you drink 264 gallon water out of this straw, you probably got other issues. But yeah, hydration, very important.
Well, it's good and this is a great point, that just buying stuff isn't good enough, because you don't want to have to learn how to use it when you're dehydrated. So if you get this, test some of this stuff out. So for example, the Life Straw, it takes a really strong force to get water to pull through it, because you're suctioning the water through a filter. So one of the things I recently did was I switched over to the Sawyer filters. And this actually screws on to any regular water bottle that has a standard thread pattern. And what you can do is you can actually squeeze the water through the filter from one bottle into another rather than having to pull it. And to save weight and space rather than the Nalgene, I switched over to the Platypus collapsible containers, because these I can stack, the same thing. I stack a whole bunch of these, fill them up as I need to, and you don't have to spend a lot. You can actually buy multi-packs or buy these at the dollar store, and they're good for a couple uses, anywhere to a couple years, but the cheaper ones will leak. Like inevitably they will leak, so be careful about that. But there's many similar to the Platypus that really, if you look at what campers use, that's going to be a good place to start, because the people that backpack have learned what they need and how to carry the minimal amount of weight. So reading backpack reviews is a great place of finding out, hey, which filter, which pump should I use?
Okay.
What about the difference between filtration and purification? So the filters that we're talking about, it pulls particulate out. But if something is dissolved or something gets through the filter, it's not sterilized. So you may still need to boil or put in sterilizing tablets. And this is where, like, the straws take out a certain amount, but if you really want to do a fun experiment, take tequila, filter it through one of these, drink some before and after, and it will be the smoothest tequila you've ever drank. But it'll still have that dark color if you're using a dark añejo, because it still has particulates that are moving through that could possibly harm you. So
Okay.
filtering isn't enough. You also need to still worry about sterilizing, which is why never drink roof water, because the chemicals off of the asphalt are toxic, and nothing is worse than getting diarrhea and suffering from dehydration. So
No, that's a
make sure
surefire
to have
way.
meds. Yep.
That'll cut your trip kind of short. So that kind of leads us into our next thing. So if we've got drink, we got to have some food, right? Now, I'm a big dude. I love my food, but when it comes, I do realize I cannot carry, bugging out. You cannot carry a lot of food. So, the first thing a lot of people do, a lot of mistakes that I see people do, is they go and they buy a bunch of these.
Yes.
Okay. This is huge. Learned in the Army. There's a lot of filler in here that you don't need to carry with you. We used to do what we call strip them down, in which we take everything out, take it out of the boxes, and get everything we need, and just carry that. So these are not bad. They're shelf stable, but look at the size. You're talking about like a 2-pound bag. Now, and when you're dealing with like a little bug out bag, when you're dealing with a bug out bag, like we'll go back to the Hello Kitty, like this size right here. How many of these can you fit in there?
Right.
You can't fit many. So it's something to consider. And also these can be cost prohibitive to some people, especially in times where people are doing a lot of prepping. These can cost a lot of money. So what I do is, with a lot of my bug out stuff, my bug out bags, I actually have the Marine rations. Because this ration tastes a lot like a sugar cookie. It's kind of dry. You make sure you have water when you eat it, but it's busted into little bars. You can open it up. You can seal the package back. They stay fresh. And this is enough to feed you, this is 2,400 calories. You could do easily 2 days with just this block. And then for drink, I like the water soluble sports drinks, hydration drinks.
Yep.
Like this. They used to give us this in the Army. It tastes like crap, but but it works. It works. It gets you hydrated. It's got your electrolytes and stuff in it. It's good. So you look right here, and this is enough. That's a couple days right there. 2 days. Now, one other thing I'll touch on is you don't even have to go that route. If right here, canned goods, not optimum. You can't seal them back. They're kind of heavy. They're kind of bulky. But if this is what you've got,
right,
as long as the can, you got expiration date on here. Let's not pay attention to that. As long as the can is sealed and not swollen, rusted, or leaking, this product inside the can will still be good. Notice, I did not say it would be palatable. I said it would still be good as far as not making you sick if you eat it. Right. These stuff lasts forever. But if you don't have MREs, you don't have shelf-stable rations, right there, good old canned goods.
Yep. Well, and this is going to be a theme you're going to hear throughout this presentation, which is anything that can serve multiple needs. And one of the big mistakes people made at the beginning of the COVID pandemic was they immediately started trying to buy MREs and survival food. It's not the tastiest, and it has massive amounts of salt. So canned goods, pastas, other things that you're going to eat at home that if you then needed to take with you in the car or to walk a short distance are more useful. You can buy, there's two things. One, freeze-dried. The problem with freeze-dried is you have to have water and a source of water and probably a source of heat to get those. But a lot of the pouches of food, actually, you could eat. This is chicken pesto pasta, and this is creamy spinach fettuccine. If I was really hungry and I did not have heat, I could grab my plastic spoon, spork, super duper that's super lightweight, and I could eat this on the go, or a multi-tool. having a couple of these, they don't take up much space, they don't take up much weight. You can get these at the grocery store. If you go to an Indian grocery store, you can buy packets of Bombay potatoes, chickpeas, really good. It has spice, so you've got flavor with it. And you're looking at $1, $2 per serving. You can eat it at home. You could take it on the road. Again, something that's very useful because you might not have water or heat for some of these meals. And I don't know, Sarge, have you ever tried eating uncooked Spam? I have not gotten to that level of desperation yet.
I have. Okay, so years ago, the old ham and chicken loaf MRE that we got in the military. Spam is cooked. It's actually cooked in the can. That's why it's got the broth in there. I've eaten it. It's okay. It's like the ham and chicken loaf from the military. So it's nothing different than eating something cold out of an MRE bag.
Right.
But it's not the most delicious thing in the world, but it works. So yeah, food. You can see there's a lot of options. Let's roll into medical. Now we could go down a friggin' rabbit hole discussing medical. There should be a separate panel on it. We can discuss lots of different things. Medical needs. First off, if you have a condition which you require medicine for your condition. High blood pressure pills, diabetes, meaning you would need insulin. You're allergic to something, carry your EpiPen. You need to have these things available because if you're bugging out and you don't have that on you, then you could run into problems. This is like your standard first aid type stuff. Like me, and most of and I've got some of this stuff. I'm not going to unpack it all the way. I'll show you a little bit here. Like I'm allergic to bee stings. I have an EpiPen, but I also keep a bag with some Benadryl, over-the-counter Benadryl in it. I've got Benadryl everything. I've got Benadryl in my motorcycle saddlebags. I've got it in my glove box. I've got my EpiPens go everywhere, but I keep Benadryl all over the place just in case. So you got to carry your meds with you. You would need meds. Secondly, that would bring us into a first aid type thing. What I recommend is get just a little pack, one of these little packs like this, a little pre-made first aid kit. This is fairly inexpensive. I think this was like, I don't know, 10, 15 bucks. Yep. It's got some basic bandages. It's got some Celox in it or some quick clot, stop bleeding. A little kit like this is fine for a bug out bag. You can also get compression bandages. You notice it's starting to get big, but these things are great. If you have to stop more severe bleeding, you can also lead up to a tourniquet, which is I recommend the cat tourniquets specifically with the made of the Kevlar fiber with the metal windlasses, because but this will be a separate class on its own. But basic first aid stuff, is definitely required in your bag.
And Sarge is really hitting on two things. There are two aspects to medical treatment, in addition to the drugs and medicines you need. There's first aid, and then there's the trauma kit. So first aid can be as simple. I started making these, and basically I took a neoprene glasses case, and I simply started putting in any of the little things that I needed, like Band-Aids, like super glue, like Benadryl, hydrocortisone cream for itches, things like that, because they're really easy and compact. And this one is labeled Canada because I had to take out my little tweezers and scissors because they kept taking them from me every time I went through security, saying that that's a dangerous weapon. So I have one officially called my Canada kit so I don't lose any more scissors, versus an actual, maybe a personal tactical kit, which has the gauze, the tourniquet, the compression bandages, a scissors so you can get to it. You can have your first aid kit as part of this and make it into a comprehensive kit. Start with first aid, but then realize that trauma kit is the next thing to do. There's a lot of resources online. You can buy them pre-made, but again, two different levels. And when you come to Dragon Con next year, we weren't able to do it because we were limited to the sessions we can record. We actually have several first aid, everything from trauma to basic first aid that we do offer through the course. Everything, of course, it's Dragon Con, so all of our panels are free, but it's a great source of information.
but lots of we could spend hours on that, and no problem. But we'll just give you guys a little tease there of it all. So tell me, Hans, what do you have in the way of communication?
So first and foremost is we're in a cell phone generation. So I have a really big rechargeable battery. I plug this in every 2 weeks. This is 20,000. So I can get anywhere from 6 to 8 full charges on my phone with this. I have smaller versions depending on where I'm traveling, on where I'm going to, and the solar kit if I really needed to. But as we talked about in prepping for this, we love our Baofeng radios. These things are cheap, but they're good. You can listen in on emergency bands. You can buy an adapter plug so that you can actually plug this in and program all of the channels right into it. And now make sure, a warning, broadcasting on some of these channels requires ham licenses. So you can have it, and if it's a real emergency, I'd rather get a fine than die. But realize using it on a restricted channel or the size and the weight of the antenna could get you in trouble. What about you, Sarge? What's your thought on communications in a disaster?
Well, you hit on the rechargeable battery banks, very important. Baofengs, every prepper I know has got 5 of them. They're great. I love the software that you would use for that's called Chirp. It's really awesome software. You can download all the stuff, but probably that covers most everything unless you want to get. This will get somebody's attention, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but all jokes aside, you hit on all the good points. So I think that's what we've got for the commo side.
And one of the rules, one of the biggest rules is 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is even better. Why not go ahead and get a dozen? So when you think about, if I've got a battery backup and that's how I'm going to charge, if that's the only one I have and it dies, I have nothing. If my cable breaks and I only have one cable, I have nothing. So I get a lot of grief because I travel. I actually got a little cable kit, and I travel with 3 of every cable, every charger, every adapter I might use. That's just part of my laptop bag because I've been in too many situations. And I went to I was out having some fun in the country this weekend, recorded some videos with my camera, popped out my adapter so I could transfer it over, and it didn't work. And I only had one, so I had to wait. And so there it goes. And I caught myself not having what I needed when I needed it.
Well, yeah, there's nothing worse than going somewhere, especially I've done a lot of travel overseas on government contracts. Go and try to find some things when you're somewhere like Istanbul or Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Right. You're not going to easily find it. So especially it's compatible with your voltage and all that. So that's definitely important stuff. Let's see. Next on my list is to talk a little bit about shelter. If you're bugging in, you would have, shelter, of course. Bugging out, I get asked about like what kind of tent you carry and stuff like that. Well, Sarge doesn't carry a tent because a tent and a sleeping bag and all that assembly is this big around, even small, it would take up too much space. It equals weight in your gear, and you're not going to be able to set up a tent anyway. So I do the survivalist type approach is, of course, your good old Mylar blanket.
Yep.
Good old Mylar blanket serves 2 purposes. It shields body heat. It also prevents you from being seen by FLIR. Forward-looking infrared devices cannot see through a Mylar blanket. A tarp, just a tarp, plastic tarp. Then this kind of falls into clothing, but it's kind of like shelter. If you take a packable rain parka and an inexpensive fleece These two items together, if you wrap this around your shoulders and over you and wear this over top, this can keep you very warm in some very cold conditions, and it can also serve as emergency shelter if you bundle up and you find you somewhere place warm to lay down. As long as you have a ground barrier, you're sleeping on a mat or some boxes or something like that to keep you away from the cold of the ground, because the ground will suck the warmth right out of you. But these two things right here, that'll keep you protected down to about freezing.
Yep.
You'd be surprised.
And one of the reasons we gravitate to this track is every year, every panel, we learn at least one new thing. And it's one of the great things about coming to the track year in, year out. One thing I just learned listening to a podcast last week, Vortex Nation has a podcast, and they had Remy Warren talking about wilderness survival. And he actually said he stopped carrying the tarps and the Mylar blankets, and now he carries the contractor trash bags, the really thick 3 mil trash bags. And his thought was, if he's going to have the weight, the trash bags serve multiple purposes. He could store stuff in it. He could store game in it so that it wouldn't attract bears. He could tie them around his legs if he had to cross a stream. It wears them out, but he'll stay dry, at least for that one time. You can cut them and turn them into a tarp, or you can wrap them around you and wrap the fleece blanket in and stay dry. You can turn it into a poncho, because staying dry can be critical, especially in cold weather. So there's lots of ways of doing it, and this is why you want to figure out what is the stage, what is it that you need, and maybe stage this in different areas. If we're driving out, why wouldn't I throw in a sleeping bag, a bedroll, a tent? If I have to get out of the car and abandon it because we're out of gas or the roads are blocked, then to Sarge's point, do I really want, even if it's another 10 pounds, do I really want all that extra weight, or can I make do to get to where I need to go?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people too, like when they, it depends on where you're at, like you said, right. The situation. Are you in the inner city in the middle of summer, where you could literally just sleep in a parking deck? Would provide protection from the elements,
right.
Or are you up in the Dakotas in the middle of winter? It may be best for you to stay with your car in that case. So. You have to pack accordingly. I have the benefit of living in the metro Atlanta area. We're generally pretty mild year round here. There's nothing that we have to pack too heavy for. But if you do live somewhere different, you definitely need to consider what you need to have for shelter, because you don't want to be exposed to the elements and have that get you, so to speak.
Well, what about things like clothing and rain gear or shoes? With the Army experience, I have been told many times that happy feet are the best thing in the world, and everything starts with happy feet, or your world ends with unhappy feet. From the feet up, what should people think about when it comes to clothing, footwear, rain gear?
I think we talked about the poncho there. It could serve. You definitely want something that can keep you dry. Another thing about the poncho is the poncho is pretty, a black poncho isn't something special to look at. Now, if you get like a camouflage one or something like that with reflective tape all over it or something, this is something that's going to be noticed. I would veer away from that. Clothing should be comfortable. It should be quick drying, because if you get wet in the wrong environment, even in warm temperatures, you can get hypothermia. It should be quick drying. You should have a method of drying off, which is a towel, right? Or one of these quick microfiber, what I'm talking about. The towels that dry off is good to have.
Swim towels, they sell them for swimmers, yep. And those are really good. You can wring them out and they dry immediately.
Change the socks, change the socks, at least at the bare minimum, a change of your underlayers. You're going to want to change your underlayers of socks, t-shirt, underwear at the bare minimum. And then generally I like to have some different outer layers, at least one different outer layer. If I'm wearing I normally wear dark shirts. I like to have a lighter colored shirt. If you wear lighter colored shirts, maybe you want a darker colored shirt. The reason you want to do this is this can instantaneously change your appearance. So you can change your appearance. So that's as far as the clothing stuff goes. Yeah, and you also need to keep it in a waterproof bag. A waterproof bag is get something like this right here.
Yep.
Keep it in a waterproof bag, and so
freezer bags. Dry. Freezer bags if you have to.
Gallon freezer bags. Yep.
Yep. And one of the things that I've learned is I've got some wonderful shoes, and even the same different styles of the same brand, and some of them are comfortable for an hour or two, and others, if I'm hiking or walking a long distance, they're going to start wearing, and I'm going to need to have a blister pad or some moleskin or something like that. And the minute I found, last summer, we went hiking out west. So my version of a bug out bag was, we're going to be hiking 10, 15 miles at a time from our car. If we get stranded, what happens if we can't get back? What happens if there's a flash flood or something happens, a rock slide, and we can't get back? We have to have everything. And I discovered accidentally the best and most comfortable boots I've ever owned in my life. So the minute I got back and discovered how much I love them, I went and ordered 4 more pair just so that I could have them, because I can walk forever and my feet never got tired. I never got blisters. Even when my socks got wet from perspiration, they didn't wear. And that was something that I hadn't experienced before. And now those are my go-to boots, and I would have bought more if I could have.
Oh yeah, I think we all have our favorite set of boots. I mean, it's like I wore the Army issued stuff. Oh my God, it was terrible. They say, oh yeah, you got to break them in, right? Break them in typically means you go through a bunch of moleskins, and it don't feel no better than it did to begin with. Now what they're getting issued is better, but don't go and buy a set of Army boots. Don't go buy a set of boots because they look cool. Try on the boots. That's what I see people do. They don't try them on. Go to the store, let them size your feet with a little machine, try on what they recommend, and try out some different boots. Don't commit to something because what I like, Hans might hate.
Yep.
So, I can recommend some brands that I could easily recommend some brands for you guys to go and have a look at, but don't buy something based on just one person says it's okay. Go and try some stuff on. Good boots, I can tell you right now, you're going to spend at least $100, probably closer to 200, depending on what you get. So it's a big investment, but they will last you years.
Yep.
Years. So pay attention to that when you're shopping for your boots. You want to try stuff on.
Yep. And watch for clearance. Watch for updated models. And that's why I said the boots I found, I bought on clearance. And the minute I got back, I bought every pair they had in my size, which was the last 4 they had in stock, because they were normally $200 boots, and I picked them up for $45 a pair. And I would have bought more if I could have. And so I'm watching, and if a different color goes on sale, I'll buy more. But absolutely, and you've got to, if you take away one thing, you've got to try this stuff out. Like buying a kit, throwing this stuff together, and then just assuming you can be able to walk isn't going to be good enough. You need to hike around the neighborhood. You need to walk for a distance. You need to test this stuff out. Does your backpack pinch your neck? And how does your plan evolve over time? When we talked about packs at the beginning, originally I had a pack that was more shoulder heavy. I can't put a lot of pressure on my back anymore. I'm too old. My body doesn't do what I do. I'm not going to be able to walk as far. So I've had to move items I wanted to a secondary location that I want to get to so that I have to carry less. And I now have a good backpacking backpack that doesn't have Hello Kitty. It's not quite that cool, but it looks like a normal pack. I actually take this on planes. This is one of my carry-on bags a lot of the time, but it keeps the weight on my hips and off of my back. And for me, that was a game changer in still being able to get out.
Yeah, I've got, my pack, I've got it still arranged like that. Mine is just a non-military type pack, just a basic backpack. But you're absolutely right. The shoulders, I mean, that's where I started feeling it first.
Yep.
It starts rubbing, especially when you're walking around damn airports all over the damn world. and you got to carry it, and you've got a 12.5 hour layover at Heathrow or something like that, and you got to walk with that thing. Yeah, you find out real quick what's comfortable and what's not. Yep. So, just start out with what you got, and then you evolve and try out better gear. But don't ever think you're done with it. Like, I've got tons of packs and stuff in here. It's always evolving. Sometimes I've got 2 or 3 go bags. Like, I put one in my wife's car. I put one in, there's one in the truck. There's one in my office. And you just have, and then I'll say, okay, well, which is my main one, which is my secondary ones, because you may not have access to them all. Everywhere you travel to, ideally, you would have one every location you frequent. But I know
everyone up north has a snow kit. The minute snow hits, everyone throws their snow bag in their car, and then it goes back into storage. Check your batteries, refresh it. If you live near the coast, you have a hurricane kit. That's prepping. Well, all we're saying is look at other possibilities, look at other scenarios, and slowly start to add, slowly start to refine, and then piece it together depending on what the situation is. Is it a flee fast? Go light. Is it a plenty of time, but you may not be able to make it back? You might have to bring a little bit more. And we never know what the scenario is, but if you're prepared for different scenarios, you can activate whichever plan makes sense. So I think that takes us into the last topic we wanted to cover, which is bushcraft. What is bushcraft?
Okay, bushcraft, fieldcraft. It's the ability to use, the layman's term is going to be to be able to use what's readily available in the environment around you. It can, you can, think of, a funny note, think of MacGyver. Yes. What couldn't he do? He could take a gum wrapper and a paper clip, and do all sorts of stuff to it. And then on the other side, you've got your guys, like your hunters, your outdoorsmen, things like that. Your Boy Scouts, people that are just technically proficient out in the field, like with your soldiers. You learn these skills, survival skills, and the ability to use what's around you. So what's your most unique or a good example of a fieldcraft, bushcraft kit item that you have?
For me, I'd have to say, when looking at that, you've got knives. If you've got a knife, you've got to have a sharpener. For me, it's always been looking for tools that can serve multiple purposes. So I actually have 2 quick answers on this. And one of them is everyone has their old military shovel. And so first thing I got was my giant military shovel. And then I was like, this thing weighs 5 pounds. Let me get a smaller multi-shovel. But wait a minute, that one's heavy too. What if I just got a pocket shovel? And then I was like, is this really going to do anything? Well, and then I went to a clearance sale and I found a plastic shovel. Super high strength, serrated edges, super lightweight. Like, this weighs a couple ounces. I can strap this on a pack. I could dig a hole if I needed to. If I unfortunately have to use the bathroom, I need to bury my poop, and you want to have a shovel. And by the way, as a ranger friend of mine told me, you dig the hole first, then cover it up. You do not ever use this to move the poop. Big mistake, and it can get you severely injured if you're doing that with someone else's shovel.
Now, I will tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. That military shovel, I still have that in my kit. There's a reason for that. Because if you fold the spade flat,
yes,
you can set on it when you go to the bathroom. So I learned that in the field. So
that's awesome.
I still have that. But one thing that I use, and I freaked out yesterday because I actually lost it, is I have a number of I go everywhere with this thing. It's a little leather tool.
Yep.
I use this more, a lot of people they've got like great big, a lot of people they'll go and they'll whip out knives. Yeah, I've got knives, a dime a dozen. You whip out a knife. Well, what if I got to use it for something other than knife work? Man, I've got to screw something, or I've got to, you know, file on something, or I've got to clamp onto something with the pliers. This has a knife. I like this particular one because you got a clip, free pocket, so it sets in your pocket. You got your so I don't have to wear a dedicated pouch. You got your needle nose pliers, which I use more than I use the knife. But the cool thing about this one is it also has an outside folding blade.
Yep.
So you fold it, and you can use just a little blade. Notice this blade isn't friggin' huge. It doesn't have to be. You're just adding weight to your gear. A small blade is going to do what you need to do, and you can even get them smaller. If maybe that's okay, maybe you don't want to dedicate. We'll go like this. Get you like a little bitty one, right? So these things at the dollar store. Now, test it before you use it, because a lot of times these little tools like this, especially this inexpensive one, I got this one a couple years ago. It's still holding up, but I have gotten them and broken them right off the bat. Literally take them out of the package and break them. With the name brand ones, like I think you had a Gerber, right? That was a Gerber.
Yeah, it was a Gerber. It was a Mill Surplus.
Okay. So he's got like a Gerber. It's a Leatherman. I guarantee you any of these, you're not going to break them. There's some other brands out there. I'm not familiar with all of them. So that's a couple of the Fieldcraft items. Now, a good knife, like he says, you need a knife and a sharpener. You do not go and spend $500 on a freaking knife. Go and get you, I like the Moore knife. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Hans.
Yes. Oh, those are great.
This is a good knife. It's simple. It has a big handle on it, which has nubs on either end to keep your hand from slipping off. It has a good little blade on it. It comes with a hard sheath that has a clip that will attach to literally anything. And you're looking online. I think I paid $8 for this.
Yep.
And
even the fanciest ones are $20 for their high end.
But, you know, you don't have to worry about, you're not investing a lot of money. You're not going to be afraid to tear it up. You know, you tear up an $8 knife. What do? You go buy another one. You go grab another one out of your box. So these are great little survival knives. You can get something, bigger if you need. But I found that the working length of the blade only needs to be about 4 inches. I'm not going to be chopping down trees with this, but, about 4 inches, and you'll be good to go.
At the point where you're trying to take down a tree with a knife, your plan has gone seriously awry.
And then I've got a few of these things. I like this sport. I like the little one. I've got a can opener on here. It's very important because you need to open cans. I've also got a bottle opener on here. It has a large flathead screwdriver, a couple of your popular nut sizes, and of course your little thing. I think this was like $2 at Walmart, and I've got a few of them, and they last years.
Yep.
A little something to eat with. So as far as Fieldcraft items go, that's what I've got. One thing we didn't talk about was fire, though. We didn't talk about fire. What do you have for fire?
I got one before we hit the fire. So I have been looking for great multi-purpose items, and this is called a trucker's tool. Yeah. So it's got a blade that you can use as an axe. You can pry, you can pull nails, you can use it as a hammer, and it's not that heavy. So having this in a vehicle makes sense. If it does come to zombies, this could be a last defense anti-zombie weapon. I hope I never have to test that fact. But, I've looked at fireman's tools and other things, but they're hundreds of dollars. I picked this up on a clearance sale for $40. So, multi-use. So I'd say in general for fire, for the most part, a lighter. I've got my flint and steel. I've got all of those things. The one thing that I added recently, and it was actually, I discovered it on Shark Tank. I've bought so much funny stuff, is a packet fire starter that is waterproof accelerant. And so this actually will float on water. You can use it as a primer. It lights very easily. It burns for a while. And it's basically, if I have to get a fire going and I don't want to rely on my skills, I can throw and pour some of this on to help go with that.
I've got the same thing. It's like little tablets. And the little packet of tablets. I I've never been one that jump into the fire starting craze. I know a lot of people get into the flint and steel. You know, in the military, that's what we used more. You start a fire, use a lighter. I did have a couple of the nice jet ones that I've tried out in various conditions. Yep. I do keep some of the long burning waterproof matches in a little container, but I don't go for the steel. Here's the thing. Here's what I want people to consider. Before you go out and you buy that fire steel, start a fire with fire steel, and you tell me what you think about that. It can be easy if the conditions are optimal. But if it's not, if you're dealing with something wet, you're going to be wishing you had some of that fire starter, a lighter, something like that.
How many lighters and matches could you have in a waterproof container versus something that archaic? So as we're closing this out, what are a couple things? What are a couple things that people might not consider or might not think of? So for me, it's really simple. Really good sunglasses. And actually, these are OSHA, so these are actually will give me eye protection from shatter or impact. You can actually shoot these with a 22, and it will stop it. I've tested that, and it works. It was amazing. And for me, sunscreen. I burn immediately. So if I've got to walk, I've got to have sunscreen. It's something I have to have. And even yesterday, I was doing some spraying, and I sprayed the sunscreen off my legs accidentally, and I have burn stripes down my legs where the water hose hit me, and I was out for 30 minutes. So for me, good sunglasses, a good hat, sunscreen have to be part of my kit during any summer months. What are some of the things you think people wouldn't even think of in a bug out scenario? Oh, the universal protector.
Got to protect yourself. Yeah, so you big conspiracy theorists like I am, you got to be able to protect yourself. No, and in all serious, a good hat. So I've got this hat right here. If I go, like you said, this kind of piggybacks off your sunscreen. Yep. A good hat, have a couple hats. A good hat changes your appearance.
Yes.
Immediately. You pull out like a neon orange hat or something like that, and you switch to a black hat. Somebody's going to be like, okay, they're going to paint you out immediately as not being the same guy. Oh, no, he had on an orange hat or he had on a black hat. So a hat is very important. Also, a watch. I like the smart watches. And something else that I like, and this may or may not be something that somebody wants to get into, is I like the little standalone GPSs because I can mark wherever I'm at in the world. This doesn't require a cell signal. It bounces off the satellites. These you can get them refurbished on Amazon. They run $80, $90. These things are awesome. You can find yourself anywhere in the world using these things. It's got the GPS and the GLONASS on it. So you can find yourself anywhere in the world. My watch is also a standalone GPS for an emergency. The battery life isn't too great, but in a pinch, standalone GPS, because you've got to be able to find your way, and people do not carry maps. And in apocalypse, your GPS or your map program may not work.
Yep. Well, and that's why I love carrying a pair of lightweight binoculars. They're fun. So when you're hiking, they're enjoyable, but they could really help you spot game. They can help you spot threats. They can help you locate something on a horizon that you're shooting for. And this is where the hat comes in. If you've got the hat like a cap with a steady bill, you can actually lock in and steady your binoculars into your brim, and you'll be able to see a whole lot better. You can really lock in and use your hat as a mobile tripod for your binoculars. And you're talking about, for a really decent pair of lightweight binoculars, $100. So great to put on your wish list, your birthday list, and carry for fun and survival.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's going to about finish us up. You want to close us out?
Fantastic. Last parting shots, last tip. So for the people who this is their first experience with the Force Survival Track you want to impart to them, and where can people find you if you want to be found?
Yeah, I prefer not to be found. No, they can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, of course, and my name is spelled correctly. So they can find me on LinkedIn. They're welcome to send me any questions they'd like. There's a lot of information to cover. We could go down rabbit holes for days. Talking about all this stuff. I love to talk about it. So, if you add me or you want to ask me any questions, you certainly may. But I think we did a good job covering a lot of ground, Hans.
Fantastic. As Sarge said, start slow. Build kits, build variations. This is like a giant puzzle or a Lego set. You add your pieces over time. You change up what you want. You don't have to spend a lot to get into it, and just be a little bit more prepared. The fact that you're listening to this is already a good step. So you can reach me again on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Hans Ekman is pretty much where I am everywhere. Also, all the presentations that I do and all the blog entries are available on Ekman Guides. Everything there is also free. Also, please check out the Apocalypse Rising track site. We're going to be posting additional content. We're trying to make that more of a reference site to help people out. And we're really hoping that if things calm down, we'll be able to see everyone in person. If not, check back on the panel, because we may be offering some more virtual panels throughout the year to help people out. So, Sarge, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on some of the other panels that you're helping out with. Everybody, please stay safe. Hopefully we'll see you next year, and thank you so much for joining us today.